Hey everybody, I'll be there in just a moment, okay? Let me know if the audio is okay, not too bad. And I'll be right there in a second. This is going to be a big live stream. A lot of really cool news and stuff I'm sharing behind the scenes that I've never shared before. I'll be on camera too. Just hang right on there. Hey, get on, good to see you. We are back. Really big live stream. If you've been following my Telegram, you have an idea what's been going on. But this is for everybody who's just viewing normally on the YouTube channel. Good to see Yuri Gressel and Get On here as well. As soon as this song finishes, we'll get started. Gotta let it play out. Seems like yeah, actually it's got about 2 minutes. I'll fade it out soon. How's everybody been? Crushing your investing goals? Who here's made it to $1 million yet? Raise your hand. CreatorHeadstart.com, t.me/Eugene Chargrain. You know, it's a shame. My NVIDIA broadcast was good at keying out my background, but now it's struggling. Hey, good to see you, Yuri. This is going to be an interesting live stream. A lot of behind-the-scenes information. Guess we'll fade this out. I'll get this started. Alright everybody, so this is actually the beginning of a new series I'm doing. And this series is 0 to $1 million with stocks. You made it to buying a PC? Good job, good job. So, you'll see here in a second, but this is the beginning of a monthly update series. So every month I'm going to update you on me building a portfolio from nothing. About $300 a year, $300, that's what I'm starting with. And over the course of years, I've set a goal 9 years, inside of 9 years, hopefully faster. Within 9 years, I will build this up to $1 million live on YouTube. I feel like it's okay and safe to do this now because I've already done this once before. You're going to see it later. I did some accounting. I actually figured out that my net worth passed $1 million probably like half a year ago. So now that I've done it, I want to do it live on YouTube the right way. You'll see that the right way and show you one possible way that people can use stocks to build up their net worth from almost nothing, not even earning that much money, to $1 million. Hey, Carbonomics, good to see you. Good to see you. The gang's all here. All the Creator Headstart gang is here. Press 1 in the chat if you're Creator Headstart gang. All right, so first, we're starting out this portfolio with $300, and there are 3 income sources that I'm going to limit this challenge to. I am only going to use the money I make from Eugene Chargrain, this YouTube channel you're looking at right now, my Creator Headstart YouTube channel, and my Creator Headstart course guide program, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to limit it to those 3 things. So that way it's not cheating. I'm not going to use, like if I own some other rental property or some other channel or some other business, I'm not going to flood this challenge with tens of thousands of dollars because that's not fair, right? That's not attainable to even somebody who's just starting out investing. So this channel, or this challenge I should say, this monthly update challenge is going to be limited to just these three income sources. And you'll see how much that makes in a second. So first we need to talk about, before I did this challenge, I had to build up a new portfolio. And inside of that portfolio, there's there's some remnants of my old stuff. So I had here, for example, I still had a little bit of stock in this company called Chris. And this was Curis, I should say. And this was a promising biotech company. But what happened was it just has an awful management. They don't update people. Their clinical trials fail. Like, their science is okay, but it just fails and fails and fails. So you're going to see what I did here in a second. So this was the plan with this like old remnant stock, and then you're going to see what I build up my new portfolio to afterwards. So I've got this, this stock sticking around in my portfolio. So from the first of this month, because this series is in blocks of 1 month, I had 606 shares. And what I've been doing is I've been selling this every day in blocks of 100. And as of right now, I'm down to 106 shares. And by the end of this month, the rest of this stock should be gone. And the reason for that is, we'll skip ahead. That's because I'm going to be building a new kind of portfolio, and you'll be seeing exactly how that works here in a second. But anyway, going back, there's also, I have here in my old portfolio, a little bit of AbbVie. Now, this was a pain. This was really difficult and really sad to sell. AbbVie is a great company. It doesn't go down that badly. It pays a wicked awesome dividend, 3.89%, almost 4%. This stock never let me down. I think I was sitting 40% up on this thing. But if I'm going to stick to my new plan, my new strategy just contained within this account, I had to let it go. And you're going to see why here in a second. So after selling Chris and AbbVie, those are the last two things of my individual stock portfolio, I built out a new target portfolio. Maybe I need to remove myself so you can see it. Bye here for a second. Bye. I'll come right back, I promise. So right now, I've built up a new portfolio of $300 that is 30% VT, 27% Chris, what's still left. And then, oh, interesting, there's a little bit of something on screen there. Okay. And then 23% of bond, which is a bond ETF. And then VGSH, which is a short-term cash ETF. And the target portfolio I want is 90% VT and 90% BND. So that's the current portfolio versus the target portfolio. And then I'm going to show you exactly how this works here in a second. And the reason why I'm doing this, if you remember, I built my channel on, chasing individual stocks, making money in individual stocks. And I wanted to change from that because I realized it takes me just 11 seconds each month. I can bring myself back here. It takes me just 11 seconds each month to invest and be diversified enough to not worry about it. And with a very small expense ratio, I can do that with VT for only $7 in fees out of every $10,000 I invest. And I'm doing this because I realize my skills in making money on YouTube, that's where my skills are. It's not in picking individual stocks. I'm good at making money on YouTube, but picking individual stocks, not so much, and you'll see why here in a second. So this is why I'm going for the super boring portfolio, but this is going to be interesting over time. This thing will inevitably, over the course of however long it takes, 9 years, 5 years, this thing will inevitably march to $1 million. It's that simple. So the reason why I know that my skills are better in YouTube versus stocks is because we can compare these two things, right? So this is from my website, creatorheadstart.com. These are some of my successful channels. And I did some accounting here. Let me remove myself from screen once again. I looked at my results from 2017 to 2022 in the market, and it wasn't good. So we have 2017, I made 13%. The S&P 500 went up 19%. In 2018, I did better. I did 18%, whereas the market lost 6% and change. So that was a win for me. But also, then 2019, guess what? I lost to the market 9% versus 28%. 2020, 3% versus 16. 2021, negative 23% versus plus 26%. That was the big loser. And then finally, I did win in 2022, negative 14% versus negative 19%. So let me come back here so I can read this to you. I'll talk to you guys at the end. Let me read this to you. It's really powerful, and you should think about this when you're looking at your own stock performance over the past few years. I've been an individual stock picker. I've been part of the Michael Burry paparazzi squad. I had everything going for me: time to research individual stocks, constant flows of capital to use, limited responsibilities, and the ability to keep huge percentages of my money locked up in these stocks for long periods of time, enough time to weather out tough patches. And after all of this, it still didn't work. Ignoring dividends, I underperformed the market in 2017, 2019, 2020, and 2021, and I beat the market in 2018 and 2022. This is with many things working in my favor. By the way, I wrote all this on my Telegram. Choosing the right sector of biotech to get on early, advanced warning of the coronavirus crash in 2020, and correctly predicting rising food prices. If all of that wasn't enough, it's likely not going to happen. So I've decided to change my investing strategy to focus on a broad index VT and use my time instead of researching and thinking about individual stocks on YouTube, and changing that to getting views on YouTube and releasing simple mobile games, as in the thing that I'm actually good at making money with. Individual stocks, not so much. Do something like I did. Look over the past few years and see if you actually beat the market. And you just can't escape the data. Just put your ego aside. Put it aside. And you just think for a second when you look at it, okay, I'm not a genius. What if I am, in fact, just a normal person? And it'll do yourself a favor in the long run. So looking at this now, comparison, the red years versus the green years, there's only 2 win years for me, and then 4 red losing years. So this was under ideal conditions, as in constant access to capital, sometimes $20,000 a month to invest, limited personal commitments, unfettered free time, and lucky guess on a particular technology's efficacy, and correctly identifying 3 out of 5 products that would be bought out and commercialized, and it still was not enough to beat the market. This is under good conditions, by the way. And I realized that actually winning early in the stock market was one of the worst things that could happen to me, because it taught me that, I can pick individual stocks and make money. I don't need to buy an index fund. I don't need to buy an ETF. And I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. Now that it's been a few years and I've had time to play out and time to get away from these wins I had before, I was wrong. Now, obviously, you can tell from my performance, I didn't like dramatically lose or get wiped out in the market, right? Like most of these are like, positive gain years, but it still is an underperformance. And by the way, if you're curious about this stuff I was writing before, I had a full write-up on my Telegram, t.me/Eugene Chargren, if you want to see what happened with my last 6 years in the market. So let's talk about this honestly a second. I need to come clean. I've been bad. I've done some wrong things on this YouTube channel. And I have been part of the Michael Burry paparazzi squad. And let's talk about that for a second. Scouring Twitter for ideas or waiting for the last cryptic Michael Burry tweet or 13F filings is actually not, believe it or not, it's not a long-term sustainable investing strategy. And I should have thought of this sooner, but I was insane to think that, for the next 20 years, I'm going to be reading cryptic Michael Burry tweets and looking at his 13F filings. And like that's a strategy to go after. Like that's the way to find, stock ideas. And it's not. And I feel bad for the hundreds of thousands of people who have seen videos like this, because it's not a sustainable long-term investing strategy. And I have no problem getting away from this, even though it got me views, because this is what my channel is actually about. It's about financial independence and personal autarky. It's not about Michael Burry. It's not about individual stocks. It's not about any one thing. The goal of it at the end of the day is financial independence, personal autarky. Those are the two things, right? So even though it got views, it's important to... I have to say goodbye to this kind of content, and this new series is the beginning of this. It's building $1 million portfolio with just this portfolio I showed before. Just VT, Vanguard Total World Index, and BND, bonds. So this is the portfolio I have right now. It's $308. It's 30% VT, 27% CRIS, which I'll get rid of here soon, and this bond ETF here, and then VGSH. That's where it stands right now. So this is the month of April update. It's at $300. And this is the first step on a long path to $1 million that I've done before, and I know I can do again. So let's talk about the money I'm spending on the portfolio this month. So this month, this is the base I have. I'm adding $439. And this is where the money comes from. Again, I'm limiting it to these 3 things. This YouTube channel that you're watching right now, the Creator Headstart YouTube channel, and my Creator Headstart program. Just those 3 things. I'm not taking money from anywhere else. So that's why it's $400. And the reason it's good is because most people, I think, can afford to invest $400 a month. That's not like some dramatic thing. It's not like taking a shortcut by putting in $10,000 a month. And so 58% of that comes from YouTube, and 42% of that comes from my guide. And now I have to split up this money, right? I can't just throw it all in one thing. I actually have to divide it up, and I'll show you how this works in a second. So what I do is I take 28% of the money from that stuff and put it into VGSH, and those are short-term U.S. Treasuries. And the reason why I put 28% is because that's my effective tax rate, right? So if you're self-employed, you pay double the tax rate like a W-2 employee does. And so I need to keep that aside for when I pay quarterly tax payments. So in the meantime, at least I can collect a little bit of interest, and it's safe in government treasuries while I do that. So 28% of my money always gets set aside for taxes. 2 years ago, I used to be crazy about picking the stocks with good fundamentals. Now I'm 100% invested in VU. You are 100% right, Tan. Did you see the part of the stream before? I was the same way as you until I looked back at my performance and I realized I was insane not just buying an ETF. Now, we're going to talk about VOO versus VT. By the way, there's nothing wrong with your strategy, Tan, but there's a reason why I like VT more than VOO. And again, I would be perfectly fine doing your way too, but I'm just going to choose a little bit of a different way, and you'll see why here in a second. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, picking individual stocks. I don't know what happened with you. Hopefully you didn't lose a lot of money. That's usually what happens to people who pick individual stocks. Thankfully for me, you can see there was no like dramatic wipeout and like lose everything. But no, you're 100% right. I'm glad you're on the right path, Tan, and I'm glad I can help you see another way to do that. So anyway, 28% needs to be set aside for taxes because, again, self-employed, they tax you. They tax you and tax you. I know you guys like want to have that laptop lifestyle and not work at a company, but guess what? If you work for yourself, you get taxed a lot more because you have to pay your company's equivalent of Social Security to the government. So that leaves $316.52 to invest this month. Now, where does that go? So 90% is going to VT, that's $284, and just 10% is going to my bond fund. So I want 90% my broad index fund and 10% bonds. I'm willing to readjust that in the future depending on what I see in the research. However, I've seen that Warren Buffett recommends, just for the average person, 90% broad index fund, 10% bonds. That's it. Now, I have seen there's been people like Tan who recommend just 100% the ETF and not bothering with bonds. And I would be open to that, but bond prices, at least on the ETFs, have gone down because of rising interest rates. So in a way, I was thinking it might be a good time to actually just like form the portfolio this way, have 10% because the prices are low, and I might benefit in the long run. All right, so here's the thing though. Because I only have $31 available for bond, the price per share is $74, so I'll have to keep this in reserve. I can't buy a new share of bond this month because I only have $31, but hopefully next month there will be enough for a full share. I take a drink of my water here. You can read about the bond index fund while I do that. By the way, Yuri, if you're here, happy birthday to your mother. You've mentioned her a few times. I can tell you care about her. Anyways, I am sorry about the flickering background. I'll fix that for next time. I tested it before and it worked, and now it's not. Shame about that. Anyway, so let me explain what my bond fund is. This is BND, the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF. And this thing right here, you can see the 1 year return is negative 3.75%. And that's because interest rates have risen. Which actually means because I'm starting this journey now, it might actually be a good time to buy these. So actually, maybe I'm getting lucky on starting this journey. I'm starting it at the dip of a recession and also when bond prices have gone down. Those are two things that are going to be working out for my favor, assuming that this is in fact a good place to get in. Don't time the market. With that said, don't time the market. Anyway, this thing does pay. You can see it. Not that I care. Not that dividends are necessarily optimal. It does pay a 2.6% dividend. Now, during this process, I'm going to be reinvesting everything. All my bond thing, I'm just going to use it to reinvest. All right, so let's talk about dividends I received this month. So before I got one dividend, it's really small in this portfolio. It was 14 cents from BSV, and that's just the BlackRock bond ETF. I decided to change to Vanguard because I think the expense ratio was better, but I'm open to returning to BlackRock or this bond ETF because maybe it's not good to have all my money only in the Vanguard products, if that makes sense. But anyway, I'm going to update you every single time we do a monthly update on this portfolio with my dividends. Even though dividends they're not as efficient necessarily as stock buybacks or anything else, there are people who like to hear about dividends. And so I'll tell you about that every single month, the dividends my portfolio gets. So the first update for April 2023, dividends were 14 cents. All right, so now let's talk about my portfolio's journey here. And this is going to bring up a really interesting point. So on investor.gov, there's a nice little calculator you can use to see where you are on your investing path. I'm going to take another drink of water here. And let's talk about where I am here for a second. Yeah, so much passive income coming in, right, Carbonomics, from my 14% dividend, my 14 cent. So let's look at this honestly for a second. So I started my $300 portfolio. I assumed I think it was a 6% or 8% growth rate. And you can see even in 10 years, I'm on path only to make $55,000. And that's because this portfolio is starting out so small. Even if I only add $300 every single month, by year one, I'll have $4,000. Let me remove myself so you can see. Year two will be about $8,000. Year three will be $11,000, right? Or sorry, it'll be $12,000. That's not enough. And so you can see with this journey, even if you do everything the right way, if you're in one of these ETFs, this isn't the track to be a millionaire. And I'm totally willing to acknowledge this. So a lot of people would look at a chart like this and say, well, that means you need to get better stocks. You need to look at fundamentals. You need to pick individual stocks and get lucky and have your lotto plays come back and buy Tesla or whatever else it is. And my answer to that is no. That's not what I need to do. What I need to do is increase my contributions. And you'll see why I'm going to do that in a second, or how I'm going to do that in a second. In fact, I might just skip to it, right? So I'm fully willing to acknowledge that if I keep things the way they are now, I will not reach $1 million by my goal. But you watch me. I will by increasing my income just on these three properties. It's that simple. I will use the time I'm saving, just buying this index, not worrying about investing stuff. And I'll use that time to increase my income from those three properties, and I'll contribute more every single month. Is there a reason why you're selling off in incremental amounts rather than lump amounts? That is a very good question, Yuri. So back to Chris. You were asking about this. This one. The reason I'm selling off, and let me just say, the math, the science, whatever you want to call it, they recommend if you want to get out of something, just sell it out immediately and buy immediately, right? For Chris, I heard, this is part of the old me still shining through, they were supposed to release an update about their product being taken off the FDA clinical hold. That was the reason. So unfortunately, I was doing this half in, half out thing, which I shouldn't have been doing. I didn't want to sell in the vain chance that there was going to be huge news coming through and the stock was going to like 10x. That's the reason I did it, but it didn't happen within this month. So that's the reason. Hopefully I answer your question, because I was still holding out for hope. If I just kept a little bit in there, a little longer, that it would blow up. But now that logic could be just, argued even further. You could say, well, why not just keep it? Why sell it all? Well, the reason is I want to be free of individual stocks. So I unfortunately I did the wimpy, wavery half thing where I was selling in blocks because I wasn't ready to let go. But thankfully I'm down to the last batch here. I'll be out of here soon, and I'm never looking back at this thing. I'll just feel bad either way. But if I had to guess, that stock's going down to it's already gone down like 99% over its life. But anyway, the sooner I'm out of it, the better. And you're right, I should sell in a lump, but I didn't. Because at the end of the day, investing is about psychology. You can have the optimal mathematical strategy, but if it's not psychologically appealing, guess what? People don't do it. That's why dividend investors actually usually win. That's because it's not mathematically optimal, but it's so psychologically rewarding. It really encourages people to buy and hold. And buy and hold is actually the real strategy that wins in the long run in the market. Not dividends, but because dividends psychologically acts on people to make them buy and hold and obsess over the money that's coming in every month. They hold more than like your average retail investor or somebody who's buying in and out of individual stocks. And that's why their returns actually are better, even though they're using an inferior strategy. So psychology plays a lot into this. All right, let's go back. So anyway, as of right now on my current path, I will not reach $1 million by the end of it, but just watch. It'll happen. And most of the reasons for why that is going to happen is it's not going to be on the stock market. It's going to be outside of the stock market, and I'll share that with you as it happens. All right, so now let's talk about VT, right? This is a really important topic because this is going to be 90% of the portfolio, and it has to really stand up to scrutiny if I'm staking my entire future $1 million portfolio on this one ETF. So we have to answer the question, well, what is this? And then also, why this ETF? Why are you doing this, Eugene? You used to post about, such and such company 4X. Why are you doing this? Well, let's see how this goes. So I'll read off this boring definition to you, but it's necessary because you have to understand what VT is. So VT is the Vanguard Total World ETF. It's an exchange-traded fund that mostly invests in total market equity. The fund tracks a market of global stocks. It's cap-weighted, by the way. 98% domestic and emerging capitalizations. It's been around since 2008. And here I'm standing with a portfolio of commodities futures. Well, that's the great thing about this series, Rupe. You can compare yours to mine. And if I lose out being like a boring mediocrity in this ETF, then you can say, haha, I was smart. I took the time. I made the effort, and my plays in commodity futures paid off. I hope you do. I don't know if you missed the beginning of the stream, but I tried doing what you were doing. I was playing around in individual stocks, and even under ideal conditions, I didn't win. I did not win against the market. And this is, by the way, with extreme luck, because I talked about it on my Telegram journal. I invested heavily in this technology called AAV gene therapy. And on top of that, too, not only did I pick the right gene therapy that actually was going to be commercialized, because there was a bunch of them out there at the time, right? There was CRISPR, there was AAV, there was mRNA, and I think there was at least one other type of gene therapy. So I picked the right one out of those. And then on top of that, if you look on my Discord, I picked 3 out of the only 5 successful gene therapies that actually either were bought out or made it to market. And even with all that success, and by the way, I also sold before the coronavirus crash and literally bought at the bottom. That's all documented. Got screenshots of that. Even with all of that, it still wasn't enough to beat the market. So I don't know for you, obviously there's a survivorship bias. Some people do beat the market. But what I'm saying is, at least in my experience, in the long run, that just doesn't seem to happen. Even if you have everything going for you. So I had a lot going for me. I had money constantly coming in. So if I made a mistake, I could just flood in more money. I had great income coming in from YouTube, and that it wasn't enough. I still lost. I didn't do terrible. Nothing wiped me out, but I lost. I lost against the S&P 500, and I have to just put my ego aside and realize even with all the successes, even as exciting as it was, like it was fun following the narratives and getting the news and seeing the stock 10x or 5x or whatever it was, I can't escape from this math. It just didn't work. No matter how smart I am or how hard I work, I cannot win against the collective brains of the market. Yeah, it's hard to admit that you're not as smart as you thought you were. And I hope this series helps people reach that conclusion sooner rather than later. Especially young people. Young people don't value their time. And so they spend all this time following narratives and obsessing over individual stocks or whatever it is, and the story behind it. Oh, there's a great story. It's going to blow up. Man, especially when you're young, that makes me feel so awful. Like the time you could use, like getting a skill. When you're young, you have brain plasticity. You learn quicker. You have more free time. You have more leeway. You don't have commitments to loved ones, families, where you can try out dangerous businesses and whatever it is. You can make your mark in the world. And it just pains me when I see people following the individual narratives of stocks and not just buying an ETF and focusing on maximizing their income. And by the way, my YouTube channel has been a major part of this problem because I was talking about individual stocks and Michael Burry did this or that, or, market fear news, and all of it's irrelevant, unfortunately. Not to say like the things I talk about were false. They weren't. A lot of my predictions were quite good. This is actually, by the way, I want to eventually do a comparison between what I talked about publicly versus my portfolio generally. If I had to guess, the stocks I talked about on my YouTube channel alone actually probably did better than this, if I had to guess. And the reason was that I only wanted to talk about something on my YouTube channel if I was certain, or at least if I had a really high degree of confidence, that it wouldn't embarrass me or make me look like a fool. So if you remember, I talked about selling before Corona. That was right. I talked about Gladstone land, right? So I predicted food prices would go up. That went up. I talked about AAV gene therapy over and over and over. Unicure, Bold, Avexis. Those did all really well. So I need to compare what I talked about publicly versus my portfolio generally. But, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I do for you guys. It's what I do for me. And, me managing my portfolio did not work. You have to really keep up with global activity to understand motivations for markets. That's another thing too. I was following, this is probably why you liked my channel, Yuri. You're right. I was following like what's the word? Political economic theory. What's the term when you merge those two together? Anyway, I have a really good model for how politics works and how history works in my mind. And I was applying it to investing and it seemed to work. But I just, I don't have the time anymore or the inclinations. I have commitments now. I got people I got to take care of and I can't do that anymore. So I see what you mean about keeping up with global activity and understanding motivations of the markets. I'm not convinced that's a long-term viable strategy. And maybe we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this portfolio will totally blow up and get nowhere near my objective. But I have a suspicion this is the best way to go. Let me go back to my split here before so you can see. Where is this? Please be patient with me. This is my first time. This is a brand new series. Here it is, yeah. 90% VT, 10% bonds. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I have no problem admitting before I was wrong about this. So if I'm wrong about the ETF thing too, I'm more than happy to admit it. That's the great thing about being wrong and admitting you're wrong. Because guess what? All you have to do to be right is just change. Just, detach yourself from your opinion. And all you have to do is just join the right side and you're no longer wrong anymore. There's no wisdom in staying stubborn over something that's wrong when it's, I knocked my camera down. Nobody told me. Anyway, there's no wisdom in staying stubborn when you're wrong. Just join the winning team. Join what's right as quickly as possible. Don't go down with the ship when you're wrong, Anyway, let's continue. This was a great screen. I'm not going to end up at $55,000 in 10 years. You just wait. So I did this before. My old strategy was start YouTube channels, get YouTube income, and then use that income to get dividend stocks and individual stocks. And that was, by the way, even as bad as that was enough to get me to the, $1 million net worth. I want to do that again with a small portfolio. But this time, hopefully with a better strategy, a more optimized one. I don't care if I'm right or not. I want to make money. Bingo, same. Between having $1 million and my ego, I'll choose the $1 million every time. It depends. I wouldn't want to totally embarrass myself, but you know what I mean. It takes a lot of introspection and humility to admit something isn't working and changing, which everyone can appreciate, even though I don't agree on individual stocks. Yeah, no, I understand. You think you have a You think you have a niche sector you can operate in, and you have a systemic advantage. Let's do a comparison. Let's see how that goes over time. That's the point of this series, though. Guess what? Now that I'm doing this, you don't have to do this boring ETF road yourself thing, and you can just check up on this video series every month and see how it progresses versus yourself. And this way, I'm getting more information to you. You have more information to work with. That's the entire point of this. I wish you the best, by the way. I used to think the same way you are, so I totally understand where you're coming from. And if I were to go after you for liking individual stocks, I would only be going after my previous self. So I know exactly where you are because I used to be there too. Anyway, let's talk about VT here. So this is a broad ETF of the entire world. It's not just US stocks, and also it's market cap weighted. So you can see here, these are the top 10 sectors. It's pretty diversified. I mean, it's in literally everything: consumers, energy, minerals, manufacturing, technology, health, everything. It's diversified. That's the point of it. I want to be in everything and not worry about it. If there's a winner somewhere in this pie, I'm going to get it, right? And I'm showing you here the top 10 holdings. These are actually almost entirely American companies. You can see Apple, Microsoft, Amazon. I have all these companies now. If Amazon ever does something, it's going to work out for me. Nvidia, Alphabet, Tesla, Meta, Berkshire Hathaway. But you can see here the top 10 stocks are only a tiny sliver of everything. This portfolio, or this ETF, is just huge. And now let's look at the countries. So in the United States, it's 58% of the ETF. Japan is 6, UK is 4, Hong Kong, China 3, Canada 2, and then it goes down from there. This is only, now people say to invest in the S&P 500 because, the US stocks have always done great. I still got US stocks, but they're only down to 60%. So let's talk about, here it is. So Eugene, why not just buy the S&P 500? SPY has always done better. VU has always done better. Why are you doing this VT thing? Look at the past. It's underperformed. And this has been true. But let's compare international stocks versus US stocks. There are periods where, international stocks, albeit less, there's fewer of them, but there have been years when international stocks have beaten US stocks. And there have been years when US stocks have beaten international stocks. Now let's talk about these time periods. My parents are old enough to remember those time periods, like the 80s and the 70s, when every man, my camera's really messing up. I'm tempted to just turn off this filter. Let me know if the camera's too distracting. Anyway, I know my parents, and they're old enough to remember when every technological item of substance or something good was made in Japan. Yamaha VHS tapes. What is it? Boom boxes. Anybody here remember the 70s or 80s? And, everything was made in Japan, at least all the cool, gadgets and tech. Right, there was Nintendo, but no Xbox. That makes sense? We could easily go back to that. So I just want to be totally exposed to both U.S. and international, just because there's no guarantee that, we should always be invested in the U.S. You can see there are major periods of times in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. And, I'm sorry, I got this mixed up. This is the 70s. Yeah, the 70s, it looks like that's the 80s, a little bit in the early 2000s, and a little bit in the 90s. Yeah, that's it. I just want to be exposed to the U.S. ones, because I'm not totally convinced that the U.S. stocks are always going to be number one. I want to just have everything and bet that the world generally is going to get more productive over time, not just the U.S. I don't want to be too concentrated and fixed on one country. The less I have to worry about these stocks, the better, and the more time I can devote to my income and my work that's better. That's a lot better. Hey, Roop, what do you mean by commodity supercycle? All right, so let's talk about VT. Let's talk about its performance. So I got this chart here from 2008, and this is a growth of $10,000 if you invested it in VT with the dividends reinvested. And today, that $10,000 would be worth $25,000. You can see that's a double. It's 158% return, more than a double actually. Average total annual return is 6.62%. Now, if you average that in with the bonds, that'll lower it a little bit. So that should average out to about 6% I'm making every year regardless, including with ups and downs. Averaged out, it's going to be that. And over time, it will pay dividends, but that's the general track I'm on there right now. So about 158% in 14 years. Now, let's look at my bond ETF. This is only 10%, but let's look at that. This one only has an average annual return of 2.62%. So when you average the two together, I guarantee that's going to drop from the high sixes to the 6. And this one grew from 2008 to present from $10,000 to $14,000. But bonds offer a degree of safety, and also you can withdraw from them if you ever want to retire, right? I want to keep early retirement on the table. I don't want to retire when I'm in my 60s or whatever. That's the whole point of financial independence, right? So let's talk about individual stocks versus ETFs. Watch this GIF. I'm going to take myself off the screen. Just watch this GIF and think about it for a second. So you see there in that 11 seconds, that's all it takes for me to figure out my investing strategy, get diversified across the planet, exposed to the market, and then all my investing is done in 11 seconds. Compare that to like the hours and hours and hours people do thinking about individual stocks, following narratives around individual stocks, researching them, and maybe it is worth your time and you run your own cost benefit. But for me, I look at this GIF of 11 seconds and it's hard to beat that. Imagine only spending 11 seconds every month, like having all your investing taken care of. This GIF right here is the strategy and why I want to do it. I used to spend, my Telegram journal is just filled with essays and essays and paragraphs of individual stock this. My camera's bothering me too much. I gotta just turn this off. Hang on. Individual stock this, individual stock that, and pardon the messy room. You'll have to forgive me. And it just was not worth it. I don't know what's worse, my green screen background and the messiness or that flickering. Let me move this. Move this forward a little bit. Alright, that's better. Maybe we can just use the chroma key. That might be better. Chroma key. That's not so bad. Okay, I'll just use the chroma key only. That seems to be a little bit better. Anyway, just think about like how much time you could spend tracking individual stocks versus actually making money to put in your portfolio in the first place. This GIF is so illustrative of this. This is all I'm gonna have to do every single month. Actually, I might have to do this twice because I have to get up my bond portfolio too. But I only have to do 22 seconds every month. We'll see. We'll see how that turns out over the next 9 years. It's boring, which is the way people don't talk about it. Well, that's the goal. I'm going to talk about it even if it is boring, and you're going to see the portfolio track up and up and up. And how the way I'm going to keep it interesting is it's not going to be the investing part. So the investing part is I'm going to flex. Yeah, right here. I'm going to flex every single month. Hey, guess what? Guess what? It only took me 11 seconds. Have fun spending hours obsessing over Tesla and Tattooed Chef. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do to keep it interesting. And also on top of that, I'm going to talk about how I actually make money, like how I get money to put in my investing portfolio. That's interesting. That's fun. Getting 500 million views on YouTube. That is exciting. I've never met a person who didn't at least ask me some questions about it. It is interesting how to make money on YouTube. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Well, coupling it with this most boring, the most boring investing strategy on the planet, which unfortunately happens to be apparently the most effective one. I have a lot of discipline. I'm good at buying and holding. So I'm going to find a way to make this interesting. I know I can because this 11 seconds right here, it is so powerful. There's nothing you can do to beat this. Base, glad this was the way I was taught to invest before I ever messed with any single individual stocks, but it does work. Hey, glad you did, EC. I'm actually surprised you subscribed to this channel when this was all about investing in individual stocks and wasting your time in that, but I'm glad to see you got that. So anyway, watch me do it, going from $300 to $1 million. Anyway, so that's the general game plan for what I'm going to do, for what Tantan was saying about how the strategy is so boring. It's boring, but guess what? It's quick. It's really quick. And what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about the fun stuff I do that saves time when I'm not thinking about my investments. And also I'm going to talk about the fun stuff I'm doing to make money, whether it's side projects or whatever else. So I'm going to talk about my YouTube channel, and maybe at some point I'm thinking of actually starting because I'm kind of bored. I've got way too much time. I was thinking of starting some kind of small business, maybe a automated laundromat or something. I got all kinds of ideas floating in my head. So we're gonna share that together as I progress on this series month to month to month. Maybe I'll get a rental property. I'll tell you about that, like a foreign rental property. That's kind of fun. I mean, people like number go up, but this is really life. This is a real life cookie clicker. That's what I want. I don't want drama. That's exactly it. I want the real life cookie clicker. Okay, so we talked about how sometimes international stocks win. So that's why I want VT. Okay. All right, so this is the current snapshot of my portfolio. Let me take myself off again so you can see. All right, so here are the 4 stocks I have right now. It's not quite, allocated right now. So I got 1 share of VT. That's a cost of $85 at a market value of 92. I've gained 8% on that. It's got a 2% dividend yield. I still got a little bit of Chris left. I need to sell out. You can see this was a massive loss. It's down like 90%. I was such a degen. It's funny, that stock 10x'd at one point, and I was sitting on 1,000% gain, but I was so greedy, I kept it in. That's why you don't get that's why you don't get individual stocks. Just don't do it. Don't be greedy like me. Don't be greedy like me. Anyway, so I still got that. I'm getting out of it. There's no dividend payment. I got 1 share of my bond ETF at $73. 0.24% gain, almost nothing, but it's paying 2.6%. And also I've got my one share to keep for my taxes. I got one share in there, gained almost nothing. That's super stable, by the way. VGSH is that short-term treasuries ETF. It's good. It's like a pseudo cash. And the dividend yield is 1.7, and the sum is $308. That's where we're starting the portfolio with, $308, and that's what I'm in right now. Should be exciting comparing to next month. My goal is to build a couple of uncorrelated streams of income, so having to invest in an ETF does free up my mental capacity to focus on something else. Thank you, Tantan. Tantan, my hero. That's me. That's me. I did not pioneer this path, but I think what I can contribute to this is I'm going to document every single step of the way. I'm going to build up $1 million portfolio with ETFs and time saved, building up my income while never working a job. This series is about how I invest without ever getting a job. My life is literally, I take this keyboard. This used to fascinate me as a kid. I wish I could show you guys my keyboard. Yeah, right here. You saw it there for a second. It is like, this was my dream as a kid. I never could quite get over it. You can like literally sit down at your computer, tap keys, and then somehow money comes out from that. Like the idea was just mind blowing to me. You sit at computers and with the right combination of keys, or hitting keys, money somehow comes out. That's literally me for like the past 9 years. So we're gonna do that, but also with ETFs. There are a decent amount of channels to talk about their stock portfolios, but I don't think there are many, if anything, talking about whole portfolio business / assets. Should be fun to watch. Yeah, thank you. Understand the series. All right. That tells me I'm articulating it well enough. Yeah, that's it. So it's a combination between ETFs explaining each month how much time was saved and what that time was used for, building up a whole portfolio, as what Tantan said and what you said, different streams of income. For now, I'm limiting it to just those 3 things, but I'm going to document also building up other streams of income alongside this as I grow up this portfolio to $1 million. Right now, it's only on track to $50,000 in 10 years. That's nowhere near close. So obviously, I'm going to have to do some dramatic things and keep this exciting. So whether it's like a rental property or what is it, like, what other little small business like a cafe or an automated laundromat, whatever it is, I'm going to take you on this journey with me. And every single time, I'm going to flex that little GIF right here, this one. Hey guys, this is the investing I did this month. This is all I had to do. It's almost finished. 4 more seconds. We got this. It's almost finished. Bing. Done. Done. So that's the idea. Anyway, I'm really glad you understand it and you think it's exciting Carbonomics. So we'll be here doing this every single month. I can't guarantee it'll be live because I don't think it will be. It takes a lot out of me to do these live streams, but at a minimum, at least there will be a recorded lesson every single month. And probably the most exciting part is going to be this. It's going to be so fun to... Where'd it go? This one. I want to see this little chart grow every single month. This little Excel... what do they call this? Spreadsheet. Yeah, every single month. And, oh, by the way, this is just a documentation. I have, in fact, reinvested my dividends only for my bond ETF and VT. For VGSH, that's one where I'm holding my taxes. I want to keep the cash just going into the general cash account, but sometimes I'll have to withdraw the cash from the investing account to pay taxes. Makes sense. It's simple. Anyway, at this point, it will matter later because even on these ETFs, by the way, if you get to like a $500,000 portfolio, even a 2% dividend yield is significant. Let's not underplay that. In fact, let me just do the math on that. I am kind of curious how much a $500,000 portfolio will make on 2%. Ignoring taxes, obviously. Yeah, that's $10,000 a year. That's not insignificant, right? But for now, those are the only two put into the dividend reinvestment program. And over time, they will compound, but we're not there. And I'm not going to do that for VGSH. So now you guys understand how that works. And this is really fascinating. Whoa, dividend snowball, guys. Starting off in the portfolio's first month, I'm expecting an annual income of $5. Oh, right. I can get an entree, or not even entree. You can't get a burger for 5 days, can you? Or $5, can you? What can you get for $5? They can't even get a hat. Not this. Let me think about what I ate today. I think you can get like a package of chicken for $5, right? Yeah, I think it pays for like one of just the chicken, the chicken breasts. All right, yeah. Great dividend income. But we're just starting out, okay? So anyway, the focus of this journey is actually not dividends, by the way. I'm just cataloging it to be thorough. Oh, perfect. Now we got the full plan. Let me walk you guys through this one. You probably can get several pounds of beans, which is a good calorie investment. Actually, we should talk about that, yeah. I have developed a little interest in buying food in bulk. Maybe we can talk about that in future monthly updates. All right, let me take myself off here so you can see my little chart in my 10 years to $55,000. So this is the plan. All right, so I'm going to use the save time that I'm not chasing individual stocks to grow revenue on my Eugene Chargreen channel and Creator Headstart properties. I'm going to rely on ETFs like VT and bond, the bond ETF to cheaply purchase international diversification and use time in the market to generate long-term returns. I'm going to limit my activity in the market to itself. As in the market, I'm only going to really do buy orders, unless, of course, like some catastrophe happens and I need to sell and get out, whatever it is. Only for personal reasons, never for timing the market. I'm going to use buy and hold strategy. And what is it? Yeah, unless I need the cash for some purchase in the future, let's say it's a house. And this is because buy and hold investors, regardless of strategy, tend to outperform retail investors, active retail investors. And so what do I mean by that? This is, that came up. This is what I was talking about before. This is why dividend investors actually usually beat a lot of other retail investors, even though their strategy is structurally inefficient. It's because they are incentivized to their entertainment program of getting monthly dividend checks. They're incentivized to buy and hold. And the facts, the information are all there. You can read a million studies about this. Buy and hold, time in the market seems to be the best strategy. So that's what I'm going to do going forward. So I did a 9-year journey. I did my time. I did a 9-year journey getting in and out of individual stocks, and that was enough to get me from $0 to $1 million. Again, when I was in my bedroom in 2012, I had probably $1,000 in my bank account, whatever it was, or maybe even just a few hundred at one point. I went from there to where I am now with over $1 million net worth. And so I'm not saying it's impossible with individual stocks. It obviously is. I did it, even though the vast majority of the reason why is actually my YouTube properties, not so much these home run stocks I did. They helped. Dividends helped, but most of it was my income, right? So because I did it with individual stocks, I know I can do it with this buy and hold ETF strategy. And my suspicion is I think it's going to be easier this time. That's what I think. And I'm going to take you along the ride the whole time. What is it? Yeah, just because of buy and hold, you tend to outperform active retail investors. So the strategy also is over the next 10 years to grow my monthly savings rate to a point where contributions put me on the 10-year path to reaching $1 million in my portfolio. This will require actions that I've not yet realized and I've not yet planned for. I don't know what I'm going to be, but I know at some point it has to happen. All right, at some point I have to do something where it increases the contributions to the side portfolio. And I don't know what it is, but I'm setting myself on the path. I just have to assume it happens at some point. How much extra liquidity you plan to have for dips? That's a difficult question to answer, Roop, because my income is only coming from, as you know, I have, or maybe you don't know, I have a whole portfolio of YouTube channels, but I don't want to be throwing tens of thousands of dollars at this every month because people will just think, oh, you're cheating, you have all this money, it's not fair. So I'm just limiting it to these 3 properties, and anything else I talk about, as in any other source of income I build and introduce to you from nothing on the stream. Does that make sense? So I'm limiting myself to only these 3, and also anything I build from this point that I've documented the entire time. So nothing behind the scenes, like if I secretly win the lottery, not counting that, right? So to answer your question, the only liquidity I'm going to have is from these 3 properties. So sometimes I'm not going to have money for dips. But the point of the strategy is not to time dips. The point of the strategy is to buy as quickly and as soon as possible and stay in the market for as long as possible. So that question about liquidity for dips is not going to be a concern as part of the strategy. Again, maybe I can have this available after the stream ends. I'll link a PDF or I'll let you download this this PowerPoint presentation. But if you read my general strategy here, these 4 paragraphs, there's nothing in there for timing with dips and using liquidity to do that, right? So the idea is I want you to limit my activity in the market, as in limit buying and selling as much as possible. I want to be in as few moves as possible. I want to accumulate my stocks. I don't want to sell things. I only want to buy, and then after that, just keep it in there as long as possible. And this is because buy and hold investors tend to outperform active people who are, again, they're active in their portfolio. They're buying in and out and doing this and that and timing this and that. In my own experience, and also the research agrees with me, that doesn't seem to work in the long run. And I know this because I did exactly what you were saying, right? I had liquidity to time for dips. That's actually exactly what you're saying. I had liquidity to buy things in dips. As you can see here, there's screenshot after screenshot of tens of thousands of dollars per month, hundreds of thousands of dollars I'm making from YouTube. That I had that liquidity you're talking about to get the dips. And guess what it ended up doing? I didn't beat the market. So That's the whole point of the series, actually, that that question you're asking, Roop. That is the exact whole point. Even with all the cash flow you could want, I'm not saying I'm not like a billionaire or anything. There are a million people in this country, even like, people at companies or whatever who have a ton more than little old me. But even with the liquidity for dips, it's not enough to beat the market. That's the important lesson I think you're going to take away from the series over time. It's not enough. Okay. And then finally, last two things. If you want to keep up with my journey, I got two things I want to direct your attention to. Telegram, t.me/Eugene Chargrain. I write these like massive rant essays every single week on all things investing. I've got a solid group of people in there who like what I have to write. More often than not, if you're following me in that Telegram journal, you have an idea of what kind of thing is coming. Because usually I type about what I'm thinking about and then I make a video usually a few days, if not like a week later. So Telegram for my advanced investing journal, creatorheadstart.com. If you're interested in a guide about how to make as much money on YouTube as possible, maximize your revenue and earnings, of course, while staying anonymous the entire time. All right. So that is the end of the presentation. Is there anything people didn't understand about my strategy here, what I'm doing, how much money is involved, where the money comes from? I really appreciate you saying me, Yuri. It is active. I don't ghost people on there. I write on there a lot. I'm writing on there all the time. I had to take a little break when I was building out my course guide, Creator Headstart. But again, I'm on there. I write. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I put a lot of effort and quality into it. So really would appreciate if I see you on the Telegram journal. But anyway, does everything on here make sense? Do you feel backstabbed and betrayed? Eugene, you had these great stock ideas. Just give me the tickers. I just want the tickers. Can you please give me the tickers? I know everybody on here on YouTube is like, give me the tickers, give me the tickers, give me the tickers. So if you feel betrayed, let me get that out of the way. Sorry, but I have to, my own money's at stake here, I have to follow the reality. I have to follow the results. Picking individual stocks for me, over the long run, 9 years, has not worked. Well, it did in the sense that it got me to $1 million, but I think it didn't work optimally. So maybe actually my psychology is wrong for this and this ETF thing won't work. Maybe you'll see. Maybe individual stock guys will be laughing at me in a few years. Let's see. But the whole point is that you now have a data point. You can see what it's like for somebody to grow up a portfolio from just $300 to ETFs and see if it is possible. Maybe these things underperform. They just don't grow fast enough. They're not interesting enough. It doesn't keep you interested in investing. People drop out, whatever it is. Maybe I'll end up like Graham Stephan and I'll start buying individual stocks and fish tanks and waste all my money because ETF investing is so boring. Maybe. We'll see. Any particular thoughts on the Schwab changeover for TD Ameritrade? Yeah, I got a few. It seems like Schwab's interface is pretty similar to TD Ameritrade. I noticed they have the same bar on the top. Obviously I love TD Ameritrade. I've been with them for years and years. I wish it weren't changing, but it doesn't seem like they have like a Robinhood style platform. So as long as it doesn't look like a Robinhood, I'm fine. It seems like Charles Schwab is almost the same thing. Do you have any thoughts on it? Does anybody here use Charles Schwab? I definitely am going to miss TD Ameritrade though. That's for sure. Actually, now that I have Charles Schwab, I have an opportunity because I'm doing this new account for this journey. I have obviously different investing accounts, but I'm just only this one specifically I'm going to show on YouTube. I can make a username that doesn't dox myself. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing to come from the Schwab changeover. Anyway, any questions about Eugene's sudden about face? You changed, Eugene. You changed. You used to be so fun and interesting. Whatever happened from the days of Basic Becky and this and that individual stock? You're so boring now. You've changed. Let me know. Let me know if I've let you down. But I do think this is the best way to proceed. I really do. Let me go back to my portfolio split. Where are you? Yeah, right here. You changed, Eugene. This is what we're going for. Let me take myself off the screen so you can see. I feel like this happens to most people as they age. Yeah, let's talk about that. A lot of this does have to do with age. I'm older now, and I don't know, something about it, like time is just, like sand is just slipping through my fingers. It is slipping through my fingers, and you're right, I was a daredevil. I was going out exploring the world, getting conflicts, starting fights or whatever it was. And I don't want that anymore. I don't want to follow narratives in individual stocks. Actually, you bring up an interesting question, EC. I wonder if ETFs were not mathematically superior, would I still change to it anyway? And I think I even still would change, even if it were mathematically inferior. It depends by how much, obviously. If it were slightly mathematically inferior to even choosing individual stocks, I still think I would do this because it saves so much time. And I can, focus on income or whatever else it is. And you're right, EC, I do have an urge for stability. So, when I was on this journey 5 years ago, I decided, hey, I want to move abroad. I want to build a whole life from scratch in another country. Hey, I want to start YouTube channels. I want to drop out of college and not get a real job and play around on the internet and make money. And thankfully it worked. But yeah, you're right. A lot of this is from being younger and just being a daredevil, as you're saying. And I'm changing. I am. I'm settling down. And a lot of that is factoring into this new strategy. But I promise I'll do my best to make it interesting. Just because I'm becoming a boring adult doesn't mean that the videos won't as well. How dare you pursue your own personal autarky? That's the point of your channel. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Yeah, the point of this channel is not hype and narratives and individual stocks. The point of this channel is to show you how to make as much money as quickly as possible and as easily as possible so you can be self-sufficient and secure. And part of personal autarky, though, is taking risks where you don't know what's going to happen, where you take the first step. So let me go to this one thing. This is going to be a great story. Let me find it. Where's that little guide? Here it is. So right here, I'm on a path. In 10 years, I will only have $55,000 doing this at this current rate. So I know at some point in the next 10 years, I have to do something dramatic to increase the monthly contributions to this. And so this is very similar when I decided to move abroad and relocate my life from America, the United States, to living abroad. So when I got my first plane ticket, I did not know how I would stay long-term in a new country. I did not know how I would get a visa. I did not know how I would get a whole new, social network, friend group, everything. I did not know how I was going to learn the language going from nothing to fluent. I did not know how to adjust to the culture. I did not know how to, manage my time with my friends back home and making sure nobody felt abandoned or anything like that. I did not know how to operate my new business in a whole new part of the world. All those things, I didn't know how they would happen. But I did know that if I didn't take that first step, none of the things I wanted, relocating was going to happen. So sometimes you have to take the first step on a journey even when you don't know what you have to do along the way or even where you're going to end up. Because if you don't do it, well, you're just going to be where you are and nothing's going to change. So hopefully this does too. Hopefully I don't end up at $55,000 because that's on the path I'm on right now. You can say, Eugene, you're on a bad path. You're on a bad path. You used to be so fun and exciting talking about basic Becky and individual stocks. You're on such a bad path right now. Look at you. You're spiraling towards destruction. Only $55,000 in 10 years. What's wrong with you? So that's what this series is about. This series is like the financial equivalent of when I decided with no preparation that I wanted to relocate my entire life and live in a different country from that day forward indefinitely. Because you can't plan every single detail. First I'm going to do this and then this. You just have to know that, okay, I'm stepping into an area where eventually at some point paths will open to me. I don't know what they are, but I have to put myself into the position where opportunities will present themselves because I know being back home in my childhood bedroom or whatever it is, I'm not going to be living in another country and I'm not going to be making any progress in doing that. So even when you step off the plane, you're on a time limit, right? In 90 days, you get kicked out of the country. You don't know how you're going to stay. You still can't do it if you don't start that 90-day countdown, right? Does that make sense or am I rambling too much? That's what this is doing with this ETF investing journey. Going from individual stocks to this. But it seems like just about everybody here is pretty understanding. In fact, EC was already ahead of me. he said, what do you mean ETFs? I've been doing this for years. Finally, you caught up, Eugene. It used to bother me so much. That's the thing, because the most what is it? The hall monitor types on YouTube used to be always like, no. The only way to do it is ETFs. No. And it used to bother me so much because the math was on their side, and I thought, well, I'm winning, I'm beating it. And no, it turns out I wasn't in the long run. So it bothers me. I hate to admit that those hall monitors, like Plain Bagel, whatever his name, they're right. I'm sorry. I tried. I tried my best. Maybe you guys beat the market. Hopefully, following the stuff I talked about on the YouTube channel, but not for me. Didn't happen for me. Makes a lot of sense. Putting oneself under a constraint is a great way to grow. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing with this new thing. I'll see you next month, by the way, for the same thing. We'll be doing this every single month. We'll check in every month. Sometimes jumping off a cliff is a great way to generate momentum. Exactly, playlist for listening. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Just gotta, if you're, I don't know if I want to jump off a cliff though. I don't know if that's the best example, but anyway, you gotta get started, even if you don't know exactly what it will be. There's a lot of people who are stuck in analysis paralysis, and like, well, I gotta make sure everything's planned out first. Not me. Maybe that's why I mess around on YouTube. That's my job. Oh man, I peaked my mic. Let me drop that down a little bit. Anyway, that's why I mess around on YouTube, and I'm not in an office. That's the one thing I'm proud of. I've spent the last 9 years. I haven't had to put myself in an office yet, thankfully. Working entirely from home by myself. I put me where I am today, and recently I passed the $1 million net worth. We'll have a little party and celebrate it here together. Woo! Nobody wanted to argue about me. Like, why aren't you doing SPY? Why aren't you doing the S&P 500? I'm surprised nobody picked that fight with me. I was ready to take it on. That's awesome, by the way. Congratulations. Oh, thank you, EC. Thank you. Yeah, but guess what? The reason for passing that 1 million net worth milestone is because of this. That's the reason why. It's not necessarily things I did with stocks. I would say it was probably 80% this and 20% stocks. Anyway, thanks for congratulating me. I really appreciate that. Oh, I guess while I'm here, I can ask, does anybody have experience opening up like physical small businesses, like a cafe? I don't want to do a restaurant, like let's you're asking for doom on that, but like a cafe or a laundromat or like even like maybe like a cleaning business. Does anybody have any experience in that, like being a small bourgeoisie? So your words of invest in yourself were the truest ones after all. Very cool. Thanks, DC. That's actually Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett would always say, the best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. Thankfully, I heard that very early on, like when I was like 10 years ago at this point, back when I was in university. I watched this cringy Warren Buffett cartoon he made. I'm good friends with Warren Buffett. And I think every time the theme song for that show ended, he said, the best investment you can make is an investment in yourself. I was actually, believe it or not, I was studying to be an accountant, and I dropped out to do YouTube. Go back to my strategy. All right, everybody. It seems like I've answered the chat and everybody's questions. So I guess what we'll do here is, because a lot of people didn't know that this is kind of like a new live streaming series. They probably didn't know it was coming. So what I'll do is I'll see you all guys next month. I would like to do a live stream once a week, just hanging out, talking about investing or whatever. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use StreamYards to get people to join in with me so they can talk to me directly rather than being in the chat. I think that'll be more entertaining to watch in replays if I have somebody to bounce off of. So actually, for people who are here, would anybody be okay if I hosted like an open StreamYard live stream? You join, you're able to talk to me. You would appear on the stream, but is there anybody in here who has like any indication that if they would join that sort of thing, if I were to host it? If not, if it's like a total flop and I won't bother, I'll just do these solo streams. Let me know on that too. Do you guys know what I'm talking about, StreamYard? I know Matt Money does something similar. He has a link. You can like hop in and add anybody in the chat, and we'll talk about investing each week, and then we'll do this update once a month. I lost my lo-fi beats. Playlist for listening. I feel like that's an account that you use to, that's like a YouTube account you made specifically for putting together songs you like. I'll be down to join for a few. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Carbonomics. Oh, somebody came in to save me. Yeah, actually, that's good because you have a YouTube channel and you can get a little more attention from that too. Okay, that's good. At least at some point somebody joins. That's good. Yeah, maybe we can have a debate, individual stocks versus ETFs. You might actually win that debate because I'm only a recent convert. I'm not up to the latest like math. I need to learn this. I'm learning as I go. I'm still learning this new strategy, but that's one thing to talk about also. Among other things, I am also very interested in ESG. Actually, once upon a time, I really liked this carbon credits ETF. I think it was called KRBN. We can always talk about that too. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to have this will be a new series. I'll see you guys once a month on this. I'll do my weekly ones where we hang out, talk about investing. And that's all for today. Yeah, great stream. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I really appreciate it. This replay will be available to watch afterwards, and see you on the Telegram. I'll play a song on the way out. Is there an ending screen? Ah, perfect. Perfect.